Hi everyone, I am Sania Farooqui and I am thrilled to kickstart a new season of the Sania Farooqui Show in partnership with Doria Feminist Fund, the first feminist fund in the MENA region. It's an activist-driven fund that supports feminist movement building, knowledge production and collective learning in the Middle East and North Africa. Founded by feminist activist Mohsin Hassan, its core feminist principles are that of solidarity, collaboration, diversity, and community engagement. To discuss a little more about Doria Feminist Fund and its work in the MENA region, in today's episode, we have two of its leadership members with us, Zeina Abdel Khalik, a feminist and human rights advocate. She is currently the co-CEO at Doria Feminist Fund, a certified gender trainer from KIT University, Amsterdam, and has been working in the field of women's rights and gender equality for the past 15 years. We also have Diana Abou Abbas, who is one of the board members of the Doria Feminist Fund and co-chair of the NGO CSW New York for the Arab region. Previously, Diana was part of the founding staff for Marsa Sexual Health Center in Beirut in 2011 and was its executive director until October 2021. Diana has co-authored several articles related to sexual and reproductive health and rights based on the largest sample size of such studies in the MENA region, which are published by Scientific Reports Nature. So thank you so much for joining us, guys. It's really wonderful to have you both on the Sania Farooqui Show today.
Thank you, Sania. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, Zeina, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell us a little about Doria Feminist Fund? I'm very curious to know more about, how the name came about as well. And what was the inspiration to launch this organization? And can you tell us a little about the founders, the leadership, who are the women who are working? And look forward to hearing more about it.
Hi, Sania. We're very glad to be here today. So Doria Feminist Fund was named after Doria Shafi, the well-known Egyptian feminist. Doria Shafi inspired a generation of feminists through her activism by trying to uplift the voices of the underrepresented in the feminist movement back in the 1950s. She worked with diverse groups of activists to create a more inclusive and intersectional movement space. So the fund was named after Doria, but this vision of a feminist fund in the MENA region manifested once the founder, Mohsin Hassan, received the Rights Livelihood Award back in 2016, and she decided to dedicate the prize money to establish a fund for the region.
Why is it so important for the MENA region, and especially women working and living in the MENA region, to have this sort of a feminist organization? And what are the challenges that we're seeing that the women are facing currently?
Yeah, feminist activists in the MENA region continue to struggle to access resources to fund and sustain the movement. Particularly, it's very difficult for new and emerging groups working at the grassroots level to access funding due to challenges in having the group formally registered or opening a bank account. Sometimes it's difficult for them to access organizations working in the global north due to language barriers or meeting requirements of these organizations. As such, having a feminist fund that responds to these needs of the groups working in the region, a fund that more, if I can say, speaks their language, is a priority. The needed a supportive and mature feminist funder that can capture, nurture, and support feminist actions by also broadening the definition of support to feminist activists, co-creating this definition with the activists themselves.
Yeah. Diana, coming to you, I must say you've got a lovely background right there, which is very distracting and beautiful at the same time. But coming to you, could you tell us a little about the work that is done by Doria Feminist Fund? How is it reaching out to women and helping them amplify their voices and stories?
Thank you, Sania. I'll just build on what Zeina was saying. And Doria speaks the language of our grantees and awardees. We're the first feminist fund that was created in the region. So it's created by people who are living and working in this region and who understand the difficulty of the context that the feminists are fighting. So from this point of view, we see that what's important here is that Doria can reach the communities, and it's also targeting the most vulnerable groups, the most marginalized groups. So in this sense, it's creating a path for those who are not usually taken into consideration when it comes to the Global North donors, or those who are even forgotten by the state, and sometimes even they are oppressed by these states. So it's very important for these individuals to have an organization that supports their voice to speak for themselves and represent themselves in this region.
Moving forward, we at the Sania Farooqui Show will be speaking to the winners of the Want and to Dare Awards organized by Doria Feminist Fund, which celebrated the courageous and extraordinary work of 5 feminists from the MENA region. Could you tell us a little about them? Not too much, because the next few episodes are going to be based on my individual conversations with each winner. But if you could just tell us a little about the kind of work they do and why it was so important to have this sort of an award that not only identifies, but also amplifies their voices, their stories, their works in the region. And yeah, what was the award all about?
Well, this award celebrates courage, as you mentioned, Sania, and these awardees are fighting in a very difficult context, and each in her own context, whether it's in Libya or Morocco. And we know that these women have represented some very courageous and very strong organizations who are working in fighting oppression for women when it comes to political representation. We have Ahmad Salam, who is from Yemen, who is fighting for the liberation of those who have been kidnapped. We have Lamia from Morocco, who is with her colleagues fighting for the LGBT rights and people who are non-conforming. We also have Ru'ya, who is fighting for the rights of the disabled. And we have Dr. Salma Hajdi, who is working on the right to safe abortion, which is very challenging in our context. And of course, we have Wansa, who is a journalist and fighting for women in Libya.
Fantastic. I look forward to interviewing and speaking to each of these winners in detail. Coming back to you, Zeina, talking about the broader aspect of how Doria's work would impact the feminist movement in the MENA region, could you tell us a little about how countries in this region, it's a broad correlation, but how does it treat its women, journalists, activists, and what is the society's attitude in relationship to feminism? Of course, it tends to offend everyone, everywhere, no matter which part of the world or which part of the region of the world you come from. But specifically talking about MENA region and why the feminist movement is such an important movement, and just a little bit more about how it impacts the work done by women in the region.
You know, the MENA region is a very sensitive context, and with the shrinking civic space, rise of authoritarian regimes, ongoing conflicts, so the challenges for feminist activists in the region cannot be easily summarized. I mean, there's direct targeting to journalists, to feminist activists, so they jeopardize their own safety in their activism and in their pursuit of justice. Independent feminist groups in the region are at the forefront of the fight for justice and equality for all women and LGBTQI individuals and organizations. These vibrant and active groups are often under-resourced and sidelined by various forces and ideologies. They deal, as I said, with enormous social and political backlash in their countries, and they are often at risking their own safety and security. And as you said, Sania, as in everywhere else in the world, there's also this negative connotation of given to being a feminist or working in the feminist movement. So they have also to overcome sometimes this stigma stigma, I mean, quote unquote, what's perceived as a stigma in our patriarchal societies.
Yeah. And Diana, could you tell us a little about how women coming from or living in countries in the Middle East who are able to, or perhaps not given equal opportunity to adopt to economic restructuring? We're seeing the job markets opening, we're seeing the economies booming in a lot of the Middle East countries, but those opportunities are not often gender neutral. And so how are women missing out the opportunity to climb the workforce, or what we often call professional ladder? And why is it so important to call these issues out and discuss them in the open, so that, there's more space where women are given access to money, to finance, to funding, to equal professional spaces, and in some cases even allowed to work?
Sania, women are facing challenges since an early age. We know that we have a huge problem with child marriage, and we are aggressing women's rights and their autonomy and agency over their bodies, and we are restricting them from having access to education. So as you see, the problem starts very early on. And we know that once women are growing up, sometimes they are not allowed to to continue their education, to get a college degree, or even seek higher degrees, and they are being stopped from reaching their full potential. And sometimes we see now that the states have caught on with the importance of showing that you are engaging women. So you see a lot of women, for example, in uncommon jobs, for example, working at the airport or in construction, but you see that they are only the front lines. They are the women you see, but they are working in low positions. So they have, we are working against a patriarchal system that has caught up with gender equality, and they want to show their best image while at the same time keeping women below the glass ceiling. It's still there, it still exists. And unfortunately, we are fighting against forces who are getting smarter as well. And they are keeping women from achieving their full economic potential. And we also have the COVID-19 pandemic that has set us back a lot when it comes to the violence that has risen against women and who were stuck at home with their partners. And we know that the care work has increased in its load a lot against women. So now they are having to continue fulfilling their professional careers while at the same time taking care of their family. And all of this has been taking a toll on women. And it's also often unspoken of, and this is why it's very important for us to raise these issues to the public, so that we know what are the real challenges that women continue to face and the forthcoming challenges that we are facing as well.
And this is where Doria comes into the picture as well, because you are also helping bridge this gap by supporting women, funding them, finding sponsors, solidarity, working with feminist movements in the region, and much more. Of course, we can't talk too much in detail, but why are countries in the MENA region failing to provide adequate support to women who are trying to make a change, trying to make a difference? Is it just patriarchy and misogyny that they are fighting, or it's just the failure to see women as an equal contributor, or women as an equal workforce for the economy? Or like, what are the challenges? What are the demands that are not letting women enter? Like you said, they don't even get access to education. A little bit on that.
It's a lot of multi-layered challenges. We have the challenge of religious extremists who do not want to see women out of the house, and who have this traditional role of women, that they have this perception of the traditional role of women. And we also have the fact that patriarchy is a major factor, and we do not have the elaborate space and the adequate space for women to speak up for themselves and to have access to the same resources and the trust for investment in opportunities for women. So we see that small businesses, for example, who are run and initiated by women are very minimal when you compare them to men. And from this aspect, we see that we need to support women to speak up and to change the status quo when it comes to economic empowerment. And we want to work with the states to realize this, but we need to be realistic about the current situation and where we are headed to.
Mm-hmm. And coming
and
to
if I may add one thing to what Diana was saying about our countries, the MENA region. There's a saying that I really like by Fatima Marnisi. She's a Moroccan feminist, and she says, like, men in our region, they don't want women to have free will. So, and this is the essence of everything. So they try to oppress women from the very young age, from accessing education, then from reaching decision-making spheres, having a say in the political life. So just trying to keep women under control.
Yeah. But, you know, it's not just Morocco. I think it's everywhere.
No, I'm not talking about Morocco, about the MENA
region. And even outside MENA region, I think we're all facing common challenges when it comes to, you know, getting women their access to the right to live freely, right to work, right to education, right to wear what they want to wear. And in few cases, right to even exist. You know, they don't even want them stepping out of the house or without a guardian or without, you know, a male member sort of walking with them. I mean, it's these issues are happening everywhere. But coming to my last question to both of you, what is the goal of Doria Feminist Fund? What do you hope to achieve? And tell us a little about the feminist movement that you aspire to have in the MENA region. Diana, let's start with you.
Thank you, Sania. Well, Doria is trying to provide access to the small groups and the emerging groups who do not have a means in other sectors to achieve their goals. And through the work that we are doing, we also want to focus on mentorship, and that is bringing together the different feminist movements in the region and coming together where we share and learn from each other. We share our expertise and we learn from each other so that we can continue working together towards our achieved goals.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Zeina, to you
now. Sorry. Okay, I'm muted. So basically, what we aspire, to achieve at Doria Feminist Fund is ensuring that the feminist groups in the region have the necessary resources to sustain their activism, to identify and determine their priorities, and also, and it's a very important component and a goal for Doria, is to produce homegrown knowledge that will inform and strengthen ongoing feminist praxis in the MENA region.
All right.
So we hope that in our next encounter, we will be telling you more about what we have achieved.
Yes. And until then, you and I are going to be working together to amplify the stories of some very extraordinary women. And I'm really excited. And I look forward to the next couple of conversations that I'm going to be having. So thank you. And it was truly wonderful to kickstart a new season and a new partnership and new stories and new powerful voices coming from the MENA region in partnership with Doria Feminist Fund. So thank you again, both of you, for coming on the show and for also making this amazing partnership happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sania.
Thank you.
And for those of you who've tuned in right now, thank you so much for watching. I hope, as I mentioned, you will continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all social media platforms. We are also available as a podcast on Spotify or wherever that you listen to your podcasts. So do tune in and don't miss out the next couple of episodes where we will be speaking to some extraordinary women and bringing you their extraordinary voices, all from the MENA region on the Sania Farooqui Show. Stay tuned for more.